In the guided meditation this morning, I'm going to be doing a little focus on thinking and fear and planning. I rose early and perhaps foolishly spent about 45 minutes exploring the issue of sedition, and then I sat for half an hour, and it was very interesting watching how the imported fears, the imported information, created fear, and then the thinking mind is trying to create safety by thinking, and of course it doesn't work. So a little bit of reflection on thinking and fear this morning in the meditation. This is another poem from this lovely book, Wild Honey, Tough Salt, Kim Stafford, Portland, Oregon poet. This is a proclamation for peace. Whereas the world is a house on fire, whereas the nations are filled with shouting, whereas hope seems small sometimes, a single bird on a wire left by migration behind, whereas kindness is seldom in the news, and peace an abstraction, while war is real, whereas words are all I have, whereas my life is short, whereas I am afraid, whereas I am free despite all fire and anger and fear. Be it therefore resolved, a song shall be my calling. A song not yet made shall be vocation, and peaceful words the work of my remaining days. Nice last paragraph. Be it therefore resolved, a song shall be my calling. A song not yet made shall be vocation, and peaceful words the work of my remaining days. Whereas the world is a house on fire, whereas the nations are filled with shouting, whereas hope seems small, sometimes a single bird on a wire left by migration behind, whereas kindness is seldom in the news and peace an abstraction, while war is real, whereas words are all I have, whereas my life is short, whereas I am afraid, whereas I am free to spare all fire and anger, despite all fire and anger and fear. Be it therefore resolved, a song shall be my calling. A song not yet made shall be vocation, and peaceful words the work of my remaining days. I continue to work with my new lovely computer, and I think it's not going to crash. If it does, I'll be gone for a minute or two, and then I will reappear. So what should one do in a time of unrest? In a time when fear abounds, or maybe one is caught up in anger or confusion. Why not remember the refuges? I take refuge in the Buddha, the one who shows me the way in this life. Namo Buddhaya, Namo Buddhaya, Namo Buddhaya. I take refuge in the Dharma, the way of understanding and love. Namo Dharmaya, Namo Dharmaya, Namo Dharmaya. I take refuge in the Sangha, the community of mindful harmony. Namo Sanghaya, Namo Sanghaya, Namo Sanghaya. Such simple words. I take refuge in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. It's so different from I take refuge in power, money, control, pleasure, avoiding pain. I take refuge in the fact of being awake right now. And of course, there is only right now. Phenomena that occurred even a second ago are over. So please let us come to this sitting here. When we bring bare attention and mindfulness, here we find sensations. We have the contact of the body with the chair, the cushion, the floor. We have all the contact that the clothing makes with the body. We have the life in the hands, the fingers, the face. And let's not let these be abstractions. Let us actually inhabit with awareness the lips and cheeks and eyes. And most remarkably, there is this breath that comes and goes. There is breathing in and breathing out. Each breath appears magically out of nowhere. A teacher friend of mine heard that there was a monk in Sri Lanka who was extremely happy. He radiated happiness and joy. And he went to see him. And he asked him, what was the secret? How did he manage to be so happy? And through a translator, the monk said, with a huge smile, it breathes all by itself. So we're not improving the breathing. We're not trying to breathe in some special way. In fact, it breathes itself. There is more to our human experience than the body and breathing. There's the mind. There are sights and smells and sounds, tastes. There are the 5 hindrances of desire and aversion, restlessness, agitation and worry, and sloth and torpor and doubt. Mindfulness illuminates worry. It illuminates restlessness. When it's noticed that the mind is wandering, simply come home to the sensations of breathing, of the body sitting here. When thinking is dominant, perhaps compulsive, we take the very thinking as our secondary meditation object. We might make a little mental note, thinking, planning, worrying. And we might wordlessly ask ourselves, are these thoughts me? Are they mine? Or are they just thoughts? We stay grounded in the sitting body, touching the chair. Knowing thoughts as thoughts. So when you can, come home, climb into the hammock of the breath. Rest easily in the present moment. Anything else that happens, be awake to it. Know it as an object of observation rather than I am. in each moment, resting back into now, with bare attention, observing the beginning, the lifetime, the passing of each breath, of each thought. Sometimes thoughts come in the company of emotions. In the case of worry, there's sometimes anxiety or fear. It's extraordinarily useful to recognize the thoughts as thoughts and the emotions as sensations. Where do they exist in the body right now? And then there is the implied or explicit question. Are these sensations mine? Are they me? Or are they phenomena arising in the universe? And I'm not suggesting that one get involved in an intellectual discussion of that or a philosophical discussion. It's all one moment at a time, one moment of bare attention. And it's only now. It's always now. And we can add to our practice anytime. At any time, we can add to our practice on the in-breath. May I be safe. May I feel safe. May I live with ease and grace. May my life become one great sigh of gratitude. May I remember that freedom is here, potentially in every moment. And on the out-breath, to someone you love easily, who loves you easily. May this person use their name, be free from fear and danger. May they live with ease and grace. May their life become one great long sigh of gratitude. May they live well and die well. And on the out-breath, may all beings, may all of us who follow this cycle of being born and dying, may everyone on every side of all political conflict remember their true great nature. May those prone to violence be restrained from within by their own good hearts. And so we land in this present moment with an intention of mindfulness throughout the day, no matter what's happening. It's called upaya, skillful means. To what shall I attend in this moment? There's an apocryphal story of two women on the way to the well at the time of the Buddha, up before dawn, going to get water for their family. And one asks the other, "And which of the four foundations of mindfulness are you practicing this morning?" And coming now, please, dear friends, into the life of the body, touching the chair, the cushion, the floor. The aliveness in the hands and fingers. In the face. In the ears. What sounds grace the ears now? This voice and perhaps more. And the eyes, sensations of eyes. And then making the intention, observing the intention in mind, and then notice the moment when the command is operationalized. The eyes begin to open, the eyelid, the work of peeling up the eyelids happens, and then seeing starts. One of the coping strategies with anxiety is anger. It's a way of avoiding the anxiety. And there's a lovely reading in this Tales of a Magic Monastery I thought of the other day that I'm going to share with you now. It's called The Room of Righteous Indignation. The guest master looked at me carefully and led me to a room marked Righteous Indignation. Good, I thought. Back home, some people don't understand me. They think I'm judgmental. But this man understands. There wasn't much in the room besides the four walls, and that was all right with me. I sat down and meditated a while. Then I read my Bible. I found myself looking at these walls. I read some more, then meditated, then I looked at the walls again. Late in the evening, as I was staring at one of the walls, it became transparent, and I found myself looking at my own monastery. Fascinating. What's more, as I watched, I found I could see right through its walls and into its church and cloisters. After a while, I could even see inside the cell of each monk. I saw everything. I saw what each monk had in his room and what he was doing. I saw some praying, some sleeping, some reading. I could even see what each one was reading. Brother, do you see what that one's reading? And look at the private property. Soon I could hear their voices. I could hear everything that was said, the complaints, the backbiting. Even my own name was mentioned. Huh? That one to be complaining of me? I began to take notes. I filled page after page. I had thought the place was bad before, but here were the facts. What they said, what they did, what they had. Nothing subjective, just the cold facts. As I kept writing, I began to see right into their heads, to see their very thoughts. Those I also wrote down. Once when I was resting my eyes, the thought came to me, I wonder what I would see if the other wall were transparent. Perhaps if I kept looking at it long enough, well, it did open up, and through it I saw the magic monastery, every bit of it. What an eyeful! I thought my own place was bad. Talk about individualism. I began to write that down too. I rang for the brother and asked him to bring me some more notebooks. There was so much to get down. From time to time, a further question would come to me. I wonder what's behind these other two walls. I became uncomfortable. Who is there? What are the walls hiding? Why don't they let me see? It's probably dreadful. I took to staring at those walls. The brother said that behind one were all the deceased members of the magic monastery, and behind the other were the deceased members of my own monastery. Ah, I said, but why can't I see them? I want to see them. You won't like it, he said. Truth, that's all I want. That's all I've ever wanted. I call a spade a spade. Show me. You'll only get angry, he said. Show me. Bring me some more notebooks and show me. But he refused and hurried away. I was determined that when he returned the next day, I would get the truth out of him. I did. I took him by the throat and demanded to know what was going on behind those walls. Behind this one, he gasped, are the deceased members of your own community. They are all looking at you. They are weeping and praying for you. Behind this other wall are all the deceased members of the magic monastery. They are all looking at you and laughing. So let us be mindful of how we avoid reality, of how we get swept away in our ideas and our emotions, and we can protect ourselves against the truth. I put in the chat 4 links. One is, if you feel so inclined as to contribute financially and support PIMC, there's a link there that takes you to this class, to the bucket for this class. And why would you do that? Well, it's for the benefit of all beings and to help others who have yet to find a place. There's a second one for a second link for Jim's Saturday gathering, this Saturday, the Qigong. A third for Robert's 4 Foundations class, which begins on the 20th, big day of the 20th. and another for Doug Pollin's Basics of Mindfulness on the 21st. So with that, please, if you have something you'd like to share, please unmute and we will be all yours.
It's Kat. Hi.
Hello, Kat.
Hi. I'm feeling really giggly this morning because I was started our sit with such righteous indignation. Like I was furious at someone in my life who is just unreasonable and ridiculous to the point that I thought of like messaging you before and be like, could you talk about this today? And then I was like, because I've been sitting here for like, 5 whole minutes being like, maybe Robert's got meditation covered and I can just show up for what Robert has to do today instead of trying to control the outcome. So that was so perfect. And at first I was like, wow, Robert's really psychic. He's knowing what I'm needing today. And then I was like, shit, Kat, everyone's has righteous indignation. Like, this is not just me. And that's what happens in this group. And that's the magic of this group. It's not just me nodding while you're reading the story. It's everyone nodding while you're reading the story. And it's just such a helpful and healthy reminder. There's a 12-step quote or idea of terminal uniqueness. Mm-hmm. Like, I am the only person who is experiencing this and it's going to kill me. And it's just such a helpful reminder to be in this group and see like everybody smiling and nodding along with this story and everyone taking in what they need for today. And so I just wanted to share those giggles and thank everyone.
Thanks, Kat.
Robert.
Hello, B.
It's B. Hi. Could you, to the same area, could you speak a little bit more about the mind defaulting to planning and problem solving during meditation? That's what my mind does. Mm-hmm. And it's such a strong draw. It's like I get this moment to sit still and I'm just off and running. Mm-hmm. It's really hard to pull back. Thank you.
Funny, it brings up an odd memory. I think I was back in social work school. Around at puberty, when the hormones hit, there's a whole new world that opens up. That is, it's what if, and of course, young children have this too. What if this and what if that? And there's all these possibilities, and we can construct fantasies. We can construct ideas. We can plan. And this is one of the major reasons we're the dominant species on the planet, because we create futures. And we gather together to set together to build projects and to cooperate with each other. And so it's crucial for the survival of the species that we have, number one, anxiety. And of course, I think Ajahn Sumedho said this, any species that has no armor and has such weak muscles and so on, has to be somewhat anxious because we were prey for so long, and we still are, really. And so the anxiety arises, and the anxiety is very much a survival instinct. And so we've learned to plan. We also went to school for how many years, learning to compare and contrast and to plan. And if we may have gotten advanced management by objectives training. And so no one in my track coach, I think, was athletic coaches were the only people that ever they didn't say try not, don't think. Let's practice not thinking. But they were training me to be in the body. But otherwise, it was all be in the head, think, 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 think. And it's been very successful for us. Right? Think of the number of catastrophes that we've avoided in our lives by planning and thinking and saving and putting a little extra something aside for the when the floods come, or and so it's very natural for us to be constantly in thought. And that's part of why it's such a discipline to become aware of thought and then to relinquish it, to renounce it in a way, and to inhabit the body more fully. And what the purpose of that, well, there's so many purposes for that, but most people don't even know their mind wanders, and most people are incapable of observing their mind. I mean, I was thinking of that when I watched several more times than was healthy, watched that mob storming the Capitol, and I thought, those people are all in a trance, of their own trances, they're doing this for their own, but they're not observing how awfully painful it is to be wired up with hatred that much. So, when we sit in meditation, and we have the body breathing away, doing its thing, it gives us the opportunity to kind of tease apart, oh, this is thought, this is planning, this is worry, this is thought with an anxiety tinge, worry, and I can learn to objectify that and see thoughts as thoughts. And as soon as we can start doing that, freedom is here. Because, not all the time, of course, because the trance is very powerful. And why would it not be powerful? Because it's saved us. And this practice also doesn't say, don't ever think again, but it does say, rather than being a slave to your thoughts, let's use our thoughts as tools, as the incredible tools they are. I mean, what an amazing thing to create an abstraction that we call tomorrow. Or 20 years from now when one has a fantasy of retiring, or preparing the nest to have a child, or whatever, or deciding, oh, this is what I'd like in my future. This is how I would be actually safer. So what an incredible skill. But to have that skill running us is the issue, I think. Does that speak to what you were asking, B? It's such an amazing thing to be able to see thoughts. I think I talked about this. I did an interview with a guy called Rob Orman yesterday. He has a blog, not a blog, one of those recording things, a podcast. Podcast, thank you. And I'll give you the link to that when it comes out. But in that conversation, I remembered something that this mind is doing now. There are so many times in my life when someone was mean to me or bad to me, and I made a decision at that time, that's a bad person, I don't like them. And there's a process that's happening now that when those old thoughts come up, a person, there's a particular bully in my childhood that was really, he was not a nice fellow, and I got hurt. But when the thought of him comes up, it's rather quick that it's noticed as, oh, look at that. There's a tightening and a disliking. What's the point of that? Why not send him a little love? Why not notice that in myself and let it go? And over time, these old places where I'm anchored as I was done wrong, wrong was done to me, they're kind of fading away because they don't exist anymore except in my mind. And so why feed them? Why cherish resentment about something that happened? Actually, when I think of it, that was 62 years ago. Very important that I hold on to that offense. I mean, you never know. They could be waiting on top of the reservoir on the way home again.
Hi, Robert. Dave Mayer.
Hi, Dave.
There's something you said yesterday that's been rattling around inside me. You were talking about, I think it was yesterday, you were talking about how when you were younger, you wanted to change the world. You wanted to do some magnificent thing for the world and make it so much better. And I kept coming back to something that I know I overlook. And, I've never met Tara, but to hear you talk about who she is and what she does, and I think about the exponential effects on the world that you helped shape, and I look at all of us who are parents and the generational chain of dysfunction that you changed in unleashing Tara. I think we all, at least as parents, are the most potent way we change the world is by shaping loving children. And when I look at my life in in the judgment that Kat talks about, I sit back and I look at my two sons and I think, holy crap, if I do nothing else in my life, look what happened. I think you changed the world in tremendous ways with this incredible loving being who's out there doing amazing things.
No argument there, and I think even before our children that the thing that we really have responsibility over in our lives is ourselves and our own hearts, our own capacity of loving and compassion. And that's a huge thing because we affect people all the time. Yeah. But I didn't end war. But because it was an adolescent fantasy. And that's not my job. My job is to take responsibility for this and for the people that I can touch. And then there's a beautiful image. It's from Hinduism. It's called Indra's web. That the universe is a great web, and we each can reach a few nodes of the web. And when it tears, we can fix that. We can improve that. And it gets more and more beautiful and more luminescent as more of us are taking care of our little piece of it. Thanks, David.
Hey, Robert. It's Deb.
Hello, Deb.
Hi. I was thinking about, I've got two 14-year-old boys who are now coming up on almost a year of not being in school and not being around people.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a lot. And they have access to more information than ever. And they're somebody, not that we know, but sort of close proximity to somebody we know, whose 16-year-old recently committed suicide. And I was talking with the boys yesterday about, I remember when I was their age-ish, and I lived in Vancouver, and a girl a couple of years older than me jumped off the Lionsgate Bridge and committed suicide. And I was telling the boys about that story, and they had so many questions, and I realized that they're in this place where they're so sort of self-absorbed and into their, worrying about every little thing that they say and do when they're around people, and then also just deep pain on what they're going through, and how mostly the messaging that they get is, well, it's a blink in time, and in 5 years you'll forget about this, and sort of, it's almost like the anti-mindful messaging. Don't be too in your about yourself, or focus too deeply. But then I realized, like, there's not a lot of places for pain for any of us, but I see it so clearly in my kids, and man, it's hard to watch and witness, and it's hard to know how to help them, and and it's hard to trust that they're gonna be okay. And I've got incredibly, I've got so much, and they have food and shelter and love, and so they've got, their deck is stacked, but they still have pain, and I just wanted to say that.
Having children is really a strange it's kind of a ridiculous thing to do because of how vulnerable it makes us. And how wonderful for your boys that you have the Dharma, and you see through this lens, and that you're compassionate with their pain. How about that? That's a lot. And that you talk to them. You have a relationship with your 14-year-olds, that you actually have real conversations with them. That's something. I had the honor to be present at the miracle of my son's birth. I was in a little birth cabin in Forest Grove. And the nurse midwife, when he was just emerged, clamped the umbilical cord and handed me the scissors and said, "Here." And I feel teary. As I cut that cord, spontaneously to my mind, this mind, came, "I set you free." And then I realized I'll be doing this for the rest of my life. And it's true. And it's been, and is, really challenging. They get to a certain age and they start really making their own decisions, really, and having their own catastrophes, and poof. It's almost enough to make a person meditate. Thanks for sharing that. What are their names, Deb?
Cash, after Johnny Cash, and Ryder.
Ryder, Cash and Ryder. R-Y-D-E-R?
Yeah.
Thanks.
You're right, it's a constant cutting of the cord.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Robert, I can speak to that too here in our house.
Hello, Patrick.
We're here, and we have my daughter at the beginning, we were like, this is going to be over in a bit. It's just no problem. But it's gone on and on. She's deeper and deeper in sadness and frustration, and it's been useful for us to just say, yeah, this really sucks. Actually, this is harder than it was when we were kids. We were stuck. And the frustration with that, but both my wife and I have seen with our older children and with our current daughter that they are inevitably going to be like us when they become adults, because we have been demonstrating the heck out of it and we've been working really hard, not just on parenting, but on improving ourselves as well, of which meditation for me is part of that. And I definitely believe that investment in me will also translate to them as adults.
They watch us. They get us through osmosis. I remember when my son, who was my first child, I don't know how old he was. He was young, maybe 3, 4, I forget. And I was about 30 feet away, going up the stairs to my car to leave, and I said something with some inflection of my voice, and he mirrored it exactly. And I thought, oh my God, he's doing that with my emotions. Plus, I saw a short documentary about chimps and how they model each other, how they mirror the. And I thought, oh my, what all have I given him unconsciously of my emotional states and my way of moving? And it is, again, it's almost enough to make a person meditate. How extraordinary to have a technology of consciousness which allows us to encounter and accept our own unfinishedness, to be able to have enough spaciousness in consciousness to intercept thoughts before we feed them, to intercept thoughts, impulses to speak before we speak, to choose to act based in love, compassion, and wisdom rather than greed, hatred, and ignorance. I mean, this is an astounding technology of transformation. And it's so much more than stress management, as good as that is. It's really about the transformation of consciousness and the character.
Hey Robert, this is Kathy.
Hello, Kathy.
Hi. So was it you, like sometime around New Year's, that was talking about radical or extreme compassion for self? And those are probably not the right words, radical and extreme, but really sincere and deep compassion for self and self-love and self-kindness and all of that sort of thing, because that's been just ringing really loudly for me in a good way. And in today's meditation, I was noticing my thoughts, would connect onto each other like little trains, and they'd take me somewhere for a while, and then I'd come back. And then I had thought, wow, to be grateful for how active my mind is. And then to just kind of surround it with some love and let it be there and then move on. And I was wondering if you could say something about self-compassion.
It's the most sensible thing, isn't it? Right? How much? I would venture to say that everyone on these screens, struggles a lot, and have been struggling our whole lives. And there's been wonderful, successful, incredible things, and the pendulum swings back and forth from one side to the other. But life is really hard. And why would we not have compassion? Not only just because we have a sensitive heart for that, but also because it's the best strategic thing to do, because a being who receives compassion becomes kind and becomes more loving and is more functional, and so it's strategically the wisest thing. Plus, there's another thing kind of banging around here. Oh boy, the words are not coming very easily. Compassion is the most reasonable approach, if funny, if I'm caught in my little separate self, and my judgmental separate self, and my self that has ideas of how I should be and you should be and they should be, and there's all this violence implied in that. If my intention is to take refuge in the Buddha and to inhabit my greater being, why would I not? Part of the vehicle of that is compassion. That compassion is interestingly, the four Brahma Viharas: love, compassion, sympathetic joy, and equanimity. I really didn't get this for the longest time, but the teachings say that they are our natural state, as opposed to greed, hatred, ignorance, and jealousy, fear. But it does make sense if our identity is growing. No, that's not true. If we are realizing our greater identity, that which was here before we were born and will be here after, then all the contractions that have to do with judgmentalism and aversion, those are all flashes in the pan in a way. They're all temporary. And so the move toward intentional self-compassion is a move toward our natural state. That's only 40% accurate in the words. Please, just a second, Russell. Please don't presume I have it all together on self-compassion. This is a work in progress. Russell.
Well, aren't we all? Aren't we all?
Especially you and me, old buddy.
Huh?
Especially you and me, old buddy.
Amen. Amen. You know, as the different folks were commenting on children, I was thinking about my own. And my kids, if you were to ask them, they would tell you, and this is a pretty accurate representation, that they had a pretty darn good upbringing in childhood. My daughter once said it was like being in Leave It to Beaver because there was so much good stuff that went on.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm a bit sad because both of them in their own relationships and lives, for different reasons having more to do with their partners than them, are going to not have children. They're choosing not to have them. And the reason that brings sadness up, I mean, I'd love to be a grandparent, but that's beside the point. The thing is, there's something they're missing. And it goes back to, made me think of that Jack Nicholson line from the movie when he played the obsessive compulsive disorder, and that unbelievable scene when he broke through and spoke from the heart to the woman, and he said, "You make me want to be a better man." And that's what they won't get, because they were the most powerful motivation I've ever had to be a better man. And for that, I'm tearful. And I'm profoundly grateful, profoundly. And I'm so sorry they won't have that same experience, at least not in that form. Of course, there's another part of me that says, well, they probably don't need it quite as much as you did to have the motivation.
Well, dear Russell, knowing you as well as I do, you were successful in that endeavor. what a delicious, nourishing, extraordinary thing we've grown here that we can share in these beautiful ways. I mean, this is revealing our humanity to each other is so beautiful. You're all so familiar to me. Oh, I want to do this for just a second. Let me see here. Just a reminder. A reminder of home. And for those of you that live in Portland, of course, there's another reminder of home. This is a nice home too, isn't it? But we'll be getting back into the center before too much longer, and we'll be there then. And I will continue the online portion of these teachings for sure. So there's no going back. Well, anybody else have something you'd like to share before we go? Well, let's end today differently from the song. There's that, I'm drawn to the Sufi practice, Ya Shakur. It's one of the 101 beautiful names of God in Islam. And it means how exquisitely the One, the mystery, God, the universe, the Dharma, how exquisitely the One is presenting itself to me in this moment as you. It's identical really to the what's the bowing, the Hindu bow. It's I forget. Anyway.
Namaste.
Namaste. It's I bow to the Godhead within you. I bow to that in you which is me, which is us, which is the One. So Yashakur goes like this. We sit comfortably and we remember the meaning. It's like how beautiful you are. How exquisite, how fortunate for me that the universe manifested as you today, so that I get to be reflected as you. It's a nice practice. So let's do it 9 times. And of course, this can be done while driving. Right? Oh, there's another car. Yashakur. It's so different than the paranoid mind, right? It's the opposite. And it jams the paranoid mind if we do this. So let's do it 9 times. So you can pick 9 different individuals and maybe let's unmute so that we can hear each other. Ya Shakur.
Ya Shakur.
Ya Shakur. Ya Shakur. Ya Shakur. Ya Shakur. That's 5. Ya Shakur. Ya Shakur. Ya Shakur. One more. Ya Shakur. Have a wonderful, mindful day, dear friends. May we be safe, use our masks, and I'm scheduled for my COVID vaccine on Monday, which I'm really glad of. I think let's see if it all works, of course, get me in there, but I'm glad of that, because there's age and underlying conditions, it will be really good not to get that beast. So please take care of yourselves, and see you soon. See you tomorrow.
Shakur.
Ya Shakur.
Shakur.
Shakur. Bless you all.
Goodbye, Maria Cristina. And Deb and Sandra and Peggy and Davina and Linda Bud. Goodbye, Linda Bud. And Sky.
Goodbye and happy vaccination.
Yes, soon, I hope. I hope it happens. Goodbye, Peggy and Francine.
Thank you.
You've become a hand.
I see that.
Bye, Sky. And Tempest. I was missing you today, Tempest. That you were on the second screen, and I thought, God, I wonder what happened to Tempest. And there you were. So I'm glad. All right, off I go. Bye-bye. Goodbye, dear friends on Facebook and YouTube.